Welcome to Got the Fire, where we talk to people that are doing cool things for Indianapolis, in Indianapolis, and in many cases beyond Indianapolis. I am especially delighted to have Ryan Hunley, who is so many things on the show today. We got some action outside, but we're going to keep going. He is the owner and creative director of Second Street. He's on the board of the Speakeasy, and I think in today's context, most importantly, he is the host and the director and the social glue behind Creative Mornings. More importantly, he's a papa and a husband.
That's right.
Many things, Ryan.
That's right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Cheers to all of you. Feel better now. So Ryan, you are a man of many talents and many spaces. Where are you most comfortable?
I think I'm most comfortable across the table from people. So whether it's working at Second Street, kind of using design to help people tell their stories, or my work with Creative Mornings, which is facilitating storytelling in community, or even being a dad or a husband. All of those roles, I really believe that I'm in a position to best use my talents to help support other people in the needs that they have. So
and shining your light on them.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In your work with Creative Mornings, tell our audience, what is Creative Mornings and why is it so essential and important in today's world?
Sure. So Creative Mornings is a breakfast lecture series. The Indianapolis chapter is incredibly vibrant, but chapters exist all over the world. So I believe in all over the world. I believe in 85 countries around the world and hundreds of chapters. Our chapter is about 4.5 years old. And we feature a different speaker every month. We go to a different venue around the city every month. So we've been at Newfields and the Speakeasy, like you mentioned, and the Indianapolis Arts Garden, and anywhere and everywhere in between, inside, outside, small venue, big venue. And we really believe that is our role to shine light on the people, places, and ideas that are really forming the heart of the city. And we take that responsibility really seriously. And I think one of the reasons that it's so important that an organization like this exists is that I think that proximity breeds empathy. And the more that we can gather people for good and expose them to experiences and stories that are different from the one that they're experiencing, the more healthy I think our community is going to be. So that's a big part of what we do. And
Ryan, tell me, as a city, Indianapolis, we have some incredible community and communities. What are some of the building blocks, for community?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that makes us ripe for something like Creative Mornings to get a lot of traction is just the unique size of our city. So our city is big enough that we have access to resources to make things happen, but it's small enough that you're really only a person or two away from the connections you need and the teamwork that you need to establish to gain some of the traction in those ideas. So I think that's one of the unique qualities of our city.
And when you think of community, I think of shared values, and with Creative Mornings, is the value on like people that are in the design field, or is it something else?
Yeah, that's a little more niche than that we are. Regardless of the fact it's called Creative Mornings, we really sincerely believe that everyone is creative. So creativity is not the privilege of the designer or the art director or the developer. That everyone uses creative problem solving. Educators, nonprofit directors, artists, librarians, Lyft drivers, line workers, chefs, everyone uses creativity. So we have featured people both on our stage and in our community that really speak to that. So we want it to be incredibly accessible and approachable for everyone.
So that if you attend Creative Mornings in Indianapolis or anywhere else, there's a tremendous energy, and even before the event starts, there's a sort of like electric anticipation, whether it's for donuts or for the event, or both. But there's just, how does that play out with bringing all those people together? You said proximity. What's the value there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is something incredible with people gathered for good, and that, again, bringing them in proximity to one another to learn, to shine light on things that sometimes I think that we as a culture and a society, we fall victim to listening to things to respond to them as opposed to listening to understand. And the platform of Creative Mornings is really conducive to people experiencing things, to learning new things, to folks sharing their stories and intersecting with one another. And it provides a little more depth to the relationships that we have, because we're sort of at a point in our society and our culture where we are connected in many different ways, but I don't know that there's a lot of depth. There's a lot of spread to those relationships, but not a lot of depth to it. So I think Creative Mornings helps facilitate some of those more meaningful connections.
And I think what has struck me on many occasions is the gravitas is sort of like part of the framework. You know, so whether it was I think it was a priest who works on the streets and is just incredibly innovative in how he connects with homeless people and people in need, or if it's the group that is progressing ideas of inclusiveness and readiness to accept Islam in our community. It's sort of built in. How does that process work? It's incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that helps with that is, as one of the leaders in the organization, I have to acknowledge that as open-minded as I think I am, that my circle is my circle, and part of my responsibility as the leader of that organization is to listen to other people. So I really try to intersect with as many folks as I can, and every time we meet someone incredible, we ask them to introduce us to more people that are doing wonderful things in the community.
So it isn't just about shared values, although shared values is certainly a lot. It isn't just about shared values, it's about shared vision as well, like a worldview.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we try not to push a certain worldview. I also see it as my role to let people use their own voice, that I try not to dictate what is said on that stage. But we have certainly curated the environment to be incredibly inclusive and share a diverse framework of thought. And to speak again to empathy, that I really believe the more we expose ourselves to people that are experiencing things different from what we experience, the more empathetic we are going to be. Empathy is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it is.
Bravo. And it's interesting the breadth of speakers, whether it's about a new project in a part of the city that's being redeveloped, or whether it's our friend Jackie Halpern talking about her experience with her grandfather's death, or just the Overheises and a couple of cooks and their amazing book, right here in Indianapolis, from the farms and urban gardens of Indy to the world. It's just sort of like these gorgeous reference points of like beautiful life around us.
Yeah, I mean, I could walk outside and throw a rock and hit 4 people that are doing wonderful work in Indianapolis. And one of the other things that we really put a lot of emphasis on is shining light on things that we haven't heard from a lot. So, we typically don't gravitate toward people that have been in Indy Monthly 20 times or have a platform to speak at any point that they want to. We like to shine light in places that aren't always the loudest voices, but that doesn't make what they have to say any more or less valuable.
Ryan, one last question. When it comes to your role, right, I used to say beer is social glue, but I think that Creative Mornings is social glue, Ryan is social glue. How can we all be a part of a better part of community?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that evaluating what our metrics of success are will help us be better members of a community. So, I've really matured into an understanding that the metrics of my success are not monetary, that what I want is the time to do things that I want to do. So I've been blessed and privileged enough professionally to be able to spend time doing what I want to do, and that what I'm best geared to do, which is to sit across the table from people and to not promote myself, but to help them tell their story. So again, whether that's Second Street Creative or Creative Mornings or being a dad or being a board member or being a husband, the way we can facilitate better community and be better leaders in the community is sometimes to move away from the arrogance of the new idea, that the newest and greatest idea is what we ought to gravitate towards. Sometimes what the world needs is a soldier, is someone who is going to help empower and enlighten and shine light and support other people that are doing wonderful things. So I think less arrogance and less selfishness as community members will foster a better community.
Serve more, maybe ask less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Listen to understand and not to respond. Because when you just listen to something just to respond to it, you're making it very centered around yourself and not about other people.
Not to mention that it's inherently difficult to respond sometimes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we don't need to respond every
Yeah,
time. Like
yeah.
sometimes people just need to be heard.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely an undercurrent of what we're trying to do.
We're so happy to drink Four Roses small batch bourbon together.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ryan. You're awesome. Thank you to everyone that made this possible. I want to end on this note, this thought from Helen Keller. Alone, we can do so little, but together, we can do so much. Thank you for watching.